Hi everyone, it's Emily and I'm here with my last pickup for the year. So most of these games are spillover from the Black Friday deals that arrived early December. And I had a few other miscellaneous games trickle in throughout the month, as well as some of the limited print distribution company games. Without further ado, let's start with my haul from Video Games Plus, which is an online retailer based in Canada who ship worldwide. So they had a ton of great sales, but I just limited myself to 4 games. The first being this PS4 game, and that is Zenki Zero Last Beginning. So this is a first-person dungeon crawler with some real-time based combat, and it's from the same developers of the well-known Danganronpa series. So I was really excited to check this out, and I've heard really positive things. So here you follow 8 different survivors who are stranded on this island in sort of this post-apocalyptic setting. And one of the interesting things about this visual novel JRPG hybrid is that it also utilizes some survival-based mechanics where all these characters can only live up to 13 days, and after that they're revived, and it kind of is incorporated in their stat builds. So this just sounded like a really unique experience, and I think you could still find this game rather inexpensively. This wasn't super popular, so I feel like it might not get a Switch port like so many of the other Spike Chunsoft games, even though I think it would be a really great fit. But regardless, this just sounds like an interesting title that I'm excited to try out. And then the other games I picked up from Video Games Plus were some very inexpensive Switch games from P-Cube. So P-Cube is a publisher that does a lot of visual novels and very unique type games, and they often have very short run periods for their games that often don't see reprints. So I wanted to scoop these up while I still can. This first game here is still relatively new, but I have noticed the Switch version of this game out of stock on many retailers. So that is Magnum Mord. And this is another visual novel JRPG hybrid. So this has more of a dating simulation emphasis with some traditional 2D side-scrolling hack and slash battle mechanics. So there are mixed reviews on this title, but I think those are mostly from those who are underwhelmed by the basic hack and slash combat. The dating sim and the characters I hear are really well written, and so I'm excited to try this one out as well. Now for a more traditional visual novel, I have Root Film here. There are a lot of visual novels out there with Root in the title, but from my understanding, they don't have any association with one another. And Root Film is a mystery slash suspense sort of game that has, I think, a very interesting art style for a visual novel. It has some very interesting shells shading going on, especially in the character designs. So the general synopsis of this game involves unraveling a 10-year-old mystery that has been lost in 35mm film. So a lot of the gameplay involves finding keywords and hunting for clues. And I do hear that this has a really great payoff at the end. It's a little bit slow in the beginning with some of the interactions not making too much sense, but I hear once you kind of get over that initial part, it becomes a very rewarding experience. And then the last game I picked up for my Video Games Plus Black Friday haul was Kotodama. And this is another visual novel-like game, but there's more emphasis on a puzzle here. So this takes place in a high school where you're trying to unravel all the dark secrets of your friends and classmates. And you do this using this puzzle system where for some reason you are taking off your classmates' clothing. I don't really understand that part, but I hear the puzzle's fun and the story is a lot of fun as well as the characters, so I thought I would give this one a go. Then next here I have some more Black Friday deals that I scooped up from Double Jump Video Games. So they had a 15% off everything, both in-store and online. And so this was the first time I used their new website, which was a vast improvement from their prior websites in that you can sort things to only just show results of complete in-box games. There are still, I think, a few hiccups when it comes to that sorting feature and needing to refine some of the conditional categories, but overall I think it's a vast improvement from their prior website. So I ended up picking up 3 games. This first one is my first ever PSP game. As I shared over on Instagram as well as in my last video, I ended up picking up a PSP system this month that I'm really excited to start collecting for. I'm still trying to figure out which titles to prioritize before I kind of go all in on PSP collecting, but decided to pick up Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep first. Now I know thanks to the all-in-one packages that Square Enix has released for the series, you don't have to play this game on the PSP anymore. But I really wanted to see how this game performed on the PSP because I hear that it's one of the best visually looking games on the system. And it really just showcases how powerful the PSP was back in the day. But yeah, you can see what the original price was. So I paid 15% off of that price. It includes the original manual, which is in good condition. And the UMD disc itself looks really nice with no obvious scratches or anything. So I'm really happy to pick this up as my first PSP game. And the other two I picked up from Diligent Video Games were two Nintendo DS games. The first being Professor Layton and the last Spectre. So you can see what the price was. And then again, I paid 15% off of that price. And so the more recently released Layton games are much more difficult to come by compared to the earlier titles. The last Spectre being the most difficult one to pick up, at least here in the US on the Nintendo DS system. So I finally have most of the Professor Layton games. I have all of the original DS games, and then I'm just missing the Azurant Legacy one on the 3DS, as well as the Phoenix Wright Layton game. And Level 5, who develops these Layton games, as well as a few other great games like Fantasy Life and Dark Cloud and the Ni no Kuni games, announced for their 25th anniversary this year is that they have a few exciting titles that they're going to release soon. So it'd be really great to see if part of that 25th anniversary celebration includes some more Professor Layton. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but I'm optimistic that we might see some more Layton in the future. And then my other Nintendo DS game that I picked up was Final Fantasy Tactics 8-2. And so I haven't played Final Fantasy Tactics yet, not the original or any of the spin-offs. So I'm a little unsure of how to approach the series because I've heard nothing but praise for these games. I have a feeling that 8-2 is probably not the best one to start with. I have been looking at the PSP game and hoping to get that one soon. So I have a feeling that one might be better to start with. But let me know if you're a Final Fantasy Tactics fan and know the best place to start. So I'm glad that I'm beefing up my JRPG catalog on the DS, slowly but surely. So a lot of the prices for JRPGs on that system have been a bit outrageous as of late. Next, I want to get into some of the random games that I scooped up this past month before I get into the limited print company games. And since I just talked about Final Fantasy Tactics A2, I figured I should talk about this game next. So this is Final Fantasy 3 for the PSP, and yes, this is a Japanese copy, but this actually plays fully in English if you have a PSP that's set to the English setting. So from my understanding, there are not a ton of Japanese PSP games that have the ability to play in English, but Final Fantasy 3 was one of them. And I hear that this version of Final Fantasy 3 is much preferable over the DS version, mostly because of how they did the 3D models. I of course bought this before they dropped the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters on the Switch and PS4, which of course I had to be asleep while that pre-order dropped. So I wasn't able to get a pre-order in, unfortunately, even though it would have been like $100 after shipping, which is a bit ridiculous, I think, for a standard edition. But I'm still optimistic that a Asian English Switch version of the Pixel remasters might be coming out. Hopefully for a little less than $100, but we'll see what Square Enix decides to do. But yeah, to talk more about this particular version of Final Fantasy 3, I picked this up on Mercari Japan. I used a proxy service to pick it up, and everything looks nice inside. The manual might have a little bit of warping, but it's not too bad. And the disc itself looked nice too without any scratches. I want to say after fees and everything, this came out to around $30, which was pretty good compared to what I've been seeing used copies go on eBay for. So I was thinking of maybe doing some sort of video about finding used games on Japanese websites using a proxy service without any kind of proxy sponsorship or anything. Just to talk about how that process goes and how I usually go about it, because I feel like you can often find really good deals compared to just relying on eBay for some of these imports. So let me know if that's a topic that you guys would be interested in. So along with Final Fantasy 3, I also picked up Little Busters for the Nintendo Switch, and again, this is a Japanese version, but as it says here, it also includes English text. So Little Busters is a very well-regarded visual novel, which originally I believe came out nearly 15 years ago on PC. This is from the same team that was behind Clannad, I believe, and a few other similar visual novels. So I'm really curious to see how this goes. I just hear really good things about the friendships in this game, as well as I think there's some baseball mechanics, since the overall plot of this is recruiting different friends to join your baseball team. So it just sounds like a very wholesome story, with some interesting character interactions here. And then the last sort of random find this month was Labyrinth of Refrain. This is an NAS America title that I've been trying to find for less than MSRP, and I think I grabbed this around $45, which I thought was a good price, especially with a lot of these out of print NAS titles. I think with the sequel coming out next spring, there might be more people trying to hunt down this, so I'm glad that I was able to get this before the prices really shot up. This is another dungeon crawler game, though it is rated M, so I feel like it's going to be a bit darker, maybe more risque. I've heard, again, great praise for it. It does have the reversible cover art, which is always nice to see from these NIS titles. And yeah, this will probably go on the backlog for a little bit, but I'm hoping to get to it sooner rather than later, especially because of how many first-person dungeon crawlers have been adding up in my backlog. All right, so we're gonna end here with some of the limited print company titles that came in, with the first being Card Shark. And so this is a special reserve games, and one that I actually played the demo of before purchasing. And I do recommend playing that demo. It gave me a lot of insight on how the game works, and I just really enjoyed the art style, and also I enjoyed the gameplay. So this game deals with a lot of sleight of hand and manipulation of cards rather than actually being a card game itself. And so I found that a lot of fun, and all the historical references just made this game very unique for an indie. So this is what it looks like. Your first full cover art looks like. It has a nice beefy manual here, which is great. But yeah, if you're looking for a new indie game to try that's a little bit different, and you also really enjoy this art style like I do, then I highly recommend giving Card Shark a go. So the reason why I received Card Shark so late is because I grouped it together with Gato Roboto. So this is a bit controversial right now, because apparently the game that went onto the game cart has a game-breaking bug that could only be resolved with a online patch. This upset a lot of people who bought the physical edition, expecting everything to be fully functional on the cart, especially when you could actually buy this game digitally for super cheap on the eShop. But regardless, I think the package for this game is really nice. Especially all the embossing on the reserve box. And then this is the special card that comes inside, and the game itself. And I really love just the black and white overall design of this game. What's also nice about the reserve edition this time is that they have the signatures of the developers on the inside cover. And these do look like they were genuinely signed, since there is some smudging on the marker here. So that's, I think, a nice touch. And of course, there's a nice beefy pamphlet as well. So I hope we hear some good news regarding the cart exchange at some point. But for now, I would just always urge caution when it comes to pre-ordering games that haven't released yet, both from some of these independent publishers and also some of the retail publishers. I'm blanking on the title right now, but that game also saw many issues with the launch, with game-breaking bugs that made it unplayable. And so it's really hard, I think, to pre-order games these days, given just so many issues when it comes to the manufacturing of physical editions. You never know kind of what you may receive once they arrive. And then for my last game, I picked up Heaven's Vault, which was a strictly limited release. They are, I believe, based in Germany. This is my first German Switch game. And I was corrected in one of my videos when I was talking about the little colored triangles on the European editions of games. Apparently the color stands for what country they came from, so I guess yellow means from Germany. I'm still a little bit unsure of how that all works, but I'm really happy to have picked this up. I actually bought this during their anniversary sale. So I got a little bit of a discount on this, and this was my first time buying from Strictly Limited Games, so I'm pretty happy with the transaction overall. And one of the interesting things about this copy is that you don't see a rating here, and most of the German games actually have these huge, I don't even know if they're stickers, but they kind of look like stickers from photos I've seen, just obscuring the cover art. So it's nice that outside of Germany, they're able to ship these out without those big ugly stickers. And this is what the game looks like inside with a nice manual as well. This also included a postcard too, which I thought was a nice touch. But this game was on my radar prior to it receiving a physical release, and I just found the concept really interesting. You have this archaeologist who goes on this adventure to decode things using different linguistic and language techniques. So this just sounded like a very unique indie title. I am an Indiana Jones fan, so any sort of archaeological adventure type game is right up my alley. And based off of the previews I've seen, I'm very curious how they're going to integrate the linguistics and language puzzles together in this adventure. All right, so that wraps up everything for my December pickups haul and my last haul for this year. So reflecting back on all of my pickups from this past year, I know that there's been a lot of quantity, but I think there's been a lot of quality too. Picking up some really interesting titles from multiple different systems. And I'm looking to continue curating my collection into next year. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what exciting pickups you got this past month. And until my next video, bye guys.